Plaza Hotel, New York. Elena put down the phone and looked at Eric playfully. My two poor nieces are toyed with by you, and as an aunt, I am heartbroken. Eric walked back from the floor-to-ceiling window and snorted coldly. I believe in your evil. Why? Don't you believe it? Eric thought to himself, how can I believe it? What you are doing is exactly the opposite of what you say. What letter do you want me to take? If you really want to take the head to letter, this girl will definitely ask whether to take the big head or the small head. Believe very much, Elena. Thank you for everything you have done for me, isn't it okay? Humph. With a reluctant expression, I forgot to ask you something. What is the relationship between the Chinese mother and daughter I met at the Farringdale restaurant? It doesn't matter. I met when I went to Huaxia, that's all. Well, it's as simple as that. The middle-aged woman, I see a different smell in her eyes. She looks at you wrong. Eric clenched his fists speechlessly. Elena, you work in a bank. Aren't you a private investigator? Do you think you're Sherlock Holmes? You little fellow, you don't have a word of truth in your mouth. I'm not that stupid girl Mary, who was deceived by you. Hee hee, I was able to fool them, and it wasn't thanks to the help of your aunt. Then how are you going to repay me? Didn't you already feed you milk? The doctors said that my quality was very high, and I was beautiful and beautiful when I ate it. Elena licked the corners of her mouth, and I have to say that the taste of Eric's milk is indeed very good, with a sweet aroma of orange and pineapple mixed together. According to research, only a very healthy body and eating more fruits will produce this slightly sweet protein, which is a good drink. She hooked her fingers. Come here. I can't. Come here. What do you want to do? You're leaving tomorrow. What do you think I want to do? Eric could only sigh. Alas, after all, it is inevitable to walk on this dragon platform. Reluctantly, he climbed onto the boat, took Elena in his arms, and began to explore with his big hands. Why are you in a hurry? Elena slapped his finger away. Let's get some rest early. I'm really going to Hasbro tomorrow to talk about business, and I've made an appointment. If you want to do it quickly, don't you? Huh. I haven't heard enough, so let's talk about what happened between you and Ashley and Mary. Eric kissed her neck. How did you have such a hobby? Why didn't I find out before? Because I haven't met someone as bad and greedy as you before. Hurry up. I can't help but want to hear from you and tell me how you got in. Elena raised her head slightly, muttering a slurred murmur, and as Eric spoke, her hands tightened and tightened like iron tongs. Every detail revealed made her even more excited, until a high-pitched scream. The whole person seemed to have reached the clouds and entered an unprecedented new world. The next morning, after breakfast, the two kissed goodbye. Little one, we had a good night last night. Looking forward to our next meeting. Eric waved his hand and motioned for her to stop talking and to go. Seeing Palamela go away, he also stopped a taxi and left. As expected, in the middle of the night last night, he was pulled up by Elena to add food, and he knew that this girl would not let herself go easily, otherwise how could she be full of spring breeze in the morning? These women, how are they all the same? It seems that they will not be willing to put me to death. Forget it, I did it with the Olsen sisters for a few hours in the early hours of Friday morning. Friday night and Nico did it for a few hours. On Saturday, he was by Elena Ice and Fire Demon Kitchen for half a night. Rubbing his kidneys, Eric was really worried that he would suddenly die on the boat if he continued like this. The wind is right away. How ugly it is to say. I sighed helplessly, but what could I do? I only blamed myself for being too good. The women attracted are also beauties with both appearance and identity. In the face of their seduction, it is too difficult to hold on, and the brother is very vigorous, so there is really no way. If it's Sister Feng and Ruhua, even if these girls are trying their best to show themselves. It would be nice if Eric didn't give him a cannon to fly his feet, and he was sure that this would not be the case now. The car came to a mansion, and it was possible to own such a house in a wealthy area, and the owner's family was not an ordinary person. Walking across the lawn and ringing the doorbell, a young and beautiful maid opened the door a moment later. "Sir, are you?" Eric tilted his head and saw Sergei Hasenfeld in a dressing gown through the crack in the door. The other party also happened to take a look, found that it was Eric, and hurriedly said, "Maria, get out of the way. You almost turned my best friend away." Maid hurriedly let Eric in, and the two hugged each other, patting each other on the back. Sergei laughed and said, "Eric, long time no see. You look so good." Eric pinched his somewhat dry skin. "It's not bad." "Ha ha ha. I've been reading a lot of lace news about you lately. Nicole Kidman, Gal Gadot, Reese Witherspoon, Evangeline Lilly. Hugging left and right is very comfortable. It looks like overindulgence." Eric shook his head slightly. "Sergei, you should read less gossip tabloids. Those are all nonsense. There is not a word of truth." "Really, you have nothing to do with these actresses?" "Of course not. You can't make a MGM movie, and the heroine has to have something to do with me. Do you think I'm Harvey Weinstein?" "What's wrong with Harvey Weinstein?" Sergei asked curiously. "This guy. Humph." Eric sneered a few times. "It is rumored that there is a red sofa in his office, which is specially used for cannons, and if an actress wants to get a role, she must lie down on the red sofa, and what will happen after lying down is still up to me." Hearing this, Sergei showed a look of envy. "It's better to be in your entertainment industry. I remember that Ernstein is the owner of the Miramax Film Company, a company that is not big, and it is really enviable to be able to play so comfortably." Eric nodded. Although Miramax's scale is not first class, it relies on Disney behind it, and with Disney's financial support, Harvey Weinstein is of course unscrupulous. But it's not as exaggerated as you think. He's at most a rookie and a star, and he's a big name. I've heard that Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow were harassed by him before they became famous, but whether it succeeded or not is only known to the person concerned. Sergei was a little incredulous. "Really? Didn't that Gwyneth Paltrow win the Oscar for Shakespeare in Love?" "This movie is also by Miramax. I remember the media photos at the time, and she and Harvey Weinstein took a picture cordially, and the relationship between the two looked great, and there was no reluctance at all." "Hee, would you go against your uncle in public?" Sergei suddenly showed a deeply approving expression. "It is clear to say this. Not to mention the blessing of the Oscar actress. Even if it is a fly, you have to eat it with a smile, right?" "That's right. Actors, to put it bluntly, they are tools to please the public and capital, for the blessing of good resources and awards, let alone flies. A lot of people are willing to eat even defense." Sergei shrugged. "Hearing you say that, my filter on Kate Winslet is about to break. Is it like this for every actor?" "I can't say everything. There are no absolute things in the world, but most of them. Winslet, I don't know. I don't make an evaluation. Maybe she is a white lotus out of the mud and not stained. You can continue to keep your fantasies." At this time, the maid Maria brought 2 glasses of pale blue liquid, which looked a little cloudy. Eric frowned. "What is this? It doesn't look like wine." Sergei took it up and drank it all in one gulp and pointed to his arm with some excitement. "Of course it's not wine. It's a functional drink that I specially asked experts to concoct, and drinking 1 cup a day is very good for the body." Sniffing, Eric's brow furrowed even deeper. "It doesn't seem to taste good? Are you sure it's a drink?" "Of course. Let's drink it, and it's good for our next activities." "What kind of event? You arranged a takeout? It's not suitable at your house. What if your wife comes back?" Sergei snorted angrily. "Don't mention that woman. This is my home, not hers. She has her own house. Now, if it is not necessary, the 2 of us will not meet. Everyone has their own play, and it is best not to interfere with each other." Eric was a little surprised. When they contacted some time ago, Their relationship between husband and wife had not deteriorated to this point, and it seemed that Sergei had become more and more sad recently. Patting him on the shoulder, Eric took a sip of his drink, the bitter feeling that almost threw him up. "Dude, what the hell are you adding here?" Sergei smiled happily instead. "Bitterness is right. Life is such pain, and this bitterness can make us not forget our humiliation. Come with me. I haven't played with women lately. It's boring to play too much. I've found a new hobby. It's more exciting." While talking, the two came to the back hall, and as soon as the door opened, they were greeted by a ring. "Huh, what are you?" Eric pointed to the ring in surprise. Then, "That's my new hobby, and it's a lot more fun to play in the ring than in bed." Sergei threw over a pair of gloves and got into it by changing his clothes first. "Come up, Eric, are you still afraid of me? A middle-aged man of 40. Look at your young muscles. Come up and have fun." At this moment, the door of a nearby room was pushed open and several hot girls in bikinis walked out. They directly surrounded Eric in the middle, changed him into sportswear, and looked at the excited looks of these women one by one. I don't know how much oil was rubbed in them. "Okay, let's have fun, but I didn't learn boxing and I don't know the rules." Sergei patted his cheek. "It's okay. I've just started learning. Remember not to slap the face and underneath. The rest will be fine." Saying that, the old boy had already begun to move left and right and slowly jumped up. "Come on, Eric, show your strength. Only if you really hit it, you will get bent." After saying that, he had already attacked, and his fists beckoned like raindrops. Eric didn't lie, he really hadn't practiced, so he could dodge if he could, and if he couldn't dodge, he tried to block with his arms. But it was impossible to block them all. The bikini beauties in the audience screamed, as if cheering them on. This kind of play between friends, there is definitely no 3-minute limit for one game, and you can't beat until you can't move. A few minutes later, even through the gloves, Eric felt hot and painful. But that's all. The amount of exercise in these few minutes has consumed most of Sergei's physical energy, and he has obviously withered. After a few minutes of hard bearing, Eric was not polite to him and raised his fist to greet the other party. The back, chest, arms, abdomen, and even the buttocks were accidentally touched. In the end, Sergei barely fought back a few times, was knocked out by a punch from Eric, and lay in the ring covered in sweat and panting. "A few minutes? It's been almost 9 minutes, sir," Mary replied. Sergei laughed, took off his gloves and pointed to the side, and Eric also lay down, his body also covered in sweat. "Isn't this sport fun, young people? It's much more fun than being in bed." Well, it was a very good experience, although it wasn't for a long time, but in these few minutes I forgot everything, and the only thing left in my mind was the idea of attacking, which was exciting and perfect for venting. Yes, boxing is a great way to vent your emotions, you know? During World War II, boxing was very popular in Germany because war made everyone nervous, and everyone needed a way to vent. Eric thoughtfully said, "Sergei, have you been having a bad time lately? You're under a lot of pressure." Sergei didn't speak. "Let me guess. Is it related to your Uncle Alan?" Hearing Alan's name, he waved his hand in annoyance. "Don't mention that old guy. He always likes to go crazy, and many people wish he died early." "Really? Do so many people in Hasbro hate him? Then why not vote for him?" Eric asked tentatively. Sergei shook his head helplessly and sighed. "Alan is the largest shareholder of Hasbro, of course. The major shareholder is not impossible to change, not that it cannot be replaced, but the company has developed well under his leadership. Everyone has made money. Who would want to toss around? If there is really a shareholders meeting to drive Alan away, who will take the lead? Who can guarantee that he will do better than Alan after taking office? Can make more money than Alan? Just like those entertainment stars you just said, even if it is a piece of poop, as long as it is wrapped with a layer of chocolate, it is exquisite stool, and everyone is still willing to eat it. After a pause, Eric slowly asked, if a capable person can compete with Alan for shares, will the other shareholders of Hasbro choose this person? Hearing this, Sergey laughed. Don't be kidding. Where to find such a person? Among the individual shareholders of the company, I already have the second highest shareholding ratio, but it is still far from Alan. Some hidden investment institutions may hold more shares than Alan, but they want profits. As long as Alan can create value, why replace him? If there really is such a person, I will be happy to help him. That old guy, I've had enough. Whether Sergey's answer is true or not, Eric would love to see his emotional dissatisfaction, at least showing that Hasbro is not discus inside. Pulled Sergey up and comforted him. Don't worry, there will be such a person. Eric, in Frendel, didn't we say we'd meet and talk? Why are you leaving? Lu Xiaoli complained on the phone. Eric walked out of the airport hall while talking on the phone, and when he saw him come out, Jin Xing immediately opened the car door. Leaning on the leather seat, Eric laughed and said, I'm too busy. I also have something to do in New York to deal with an urgent business this time. I definitely don't want to leave if time permits, but there's still a lot of work to do in Los Angeles, and don't forget that tomorrow is Monday. At home in New York, Lu Xiaoli stood on Leon Tai on the phone, and when she heard Eric's words, she immediately rolled her eyes. What the fuck is an emergency? Urgent duty is the kind of game you play with a woman in a fancy restaurant? Thinking of the picture of the gorgeous Caucasian woman coming out from under the table and licking her fingers, Lu Xiaoli felt a wave of nausea, and after the nausea, she felt a little hot in her ears. That night in Huaxia, Lu Xiaoli was able to come to the door alone in the middle of the night. Lu Xiaoli already felt very bold, but now she realized that it was nothing at all. This little man is playing too wild, and he has never seen any flowers. Looking at her daughter, who was chatting with her sister in the living room, she couldn't help but strengthen her determination again, and finally ran into Eric Cooper and couldn't let him easily get rid of her mother and daughter. That night, everything was unlocked for you, but in exchange for only a few verbal promises, which made Lu Xiaoli, who thought she was shrewd, feel that she had been tricked. She said softly, It's okay. I know you're very busy, so it's okay. Fei Fei and I will go to Los Angeles to find you. Anyway, we have nothing to do. Take a look at it as a tour. You're still coming, said Eric, in a somewhat unpleasant tone. What's the matter? Isn't it convenient? I'm very busy at work, and I may not be able to take care of you. Hee hee, I know that you are a busy person. I won't trouble you. We will meet when we have time, and if we don't have time, we will treat it as a travel and relaxation. Anyway, we won't make you embarrassed. That's whatever you want. Don't blame me if you can't see each other. Hanging up the phone, Lu Xiaoli sighed and looked to the southwest, where Los Angeles was located. She touched her face. Although her youth was gone, she was well-maintained and still full of charm. However, it was already given to the other party last time, and if you want to attract Eric Cooper's interest this time, you must come up with a killer idea. When I returned to the living room, I looked at my daughter who was giggling with my cousin, and I felt inexplicable. Alas, girl, for the sake of your future, my mother has given up this face, even this body. On the sofa, Zhou Wenqiang and Lu Yifei were looking through the previous photo albums, which were full of photos from their youth. Lu Yifei looked at one of them with some surprise. Cousin, in your era, you still wore a bikini? Zhou Wenqiang took a closer look. This one seems to have been taken when I was traveling abroad. I can't remember the specifics. I didn't dare to wear it at that time, and I didn't dare to take it out when I went outside. Lu Yifei smiled and pointed to Zhou Wenqiang's leg and said, Cousin, your figure is so good. It's strange to say. My family is the ugliest in my family. It's really annoying. Lu Xiaoli also came over. Your cousin used to be the factory flower of Zhuhai Film Factory, one of the 12 hairpins of Zhuiying. Of course she was beautiful. If she didn't go abroad later, She would definitely be a first-class actress in China now. Surely, cousin, you're so beautiful. I remember being a calendar girl before. Louis Fei also pouted. Zhou Wenqiang nodded. I did shoot a wall calendar when I was young, and it was in the 80s, and many of the more beautiful and popular female stars at that time would choose this path, which can improve the national degree, such as Gong Lian. But not anymore. When you get older, your skin is wrinkled, and like a wall calendar, it will be obsolete over time. Louis Fei hugged Zhou Wenqiang's thin waist. What are you talking about, cousin? Look at your figure. You are slimmer than me. You are just like my mother, dressed up and put on makeup, more beautiful than many celebrities. Zhou Wenqiang poked a finger at Lu Yifei's forehead. You can speak. What's wrong with Feifei's wrist? It's blue and purple. If you practice martial arts, it's okay, and you'll go down in a few days. Zhou Wenqiang glared at Lu Xiaoli. Sister, can't you pay attention? Practicing a dance still hurts your body. I think it's better to let Feifei practice yoga with me. Cousin, it's not dance, it's martial arts. Lu Yifei chuckled. Practicing martial arts? What are you doing practicing that thing? Do you want to be a star? Lu Yifei nodded. Someone told me that if you want to develop in Hollywood in the future, Kung Fu is the only stepping stone. There is only a shortage of Chinese actresses who can fight here and others can't stand. Who said that? Jean Fei? Isn't he capable? Isn't he able to get in touch with Sony Columbia? He still needs to let you learn martial arts from scratch? You are not a child. How tiring it is to learn Kung Fu. It's not a godfather, it's another person. Cousin, you should know him. Eric Cooper, vice president of MGM Pictures. Hearing Eric's name, Zhou Wenqiang was obviously stunned for a moment. Although she no longer participates in movies and TV series, but after coming to the United States, she is still engaged in related work and is now a middle manager at the Broadway Hazender Theater. But although he has been working in the theater for nearly 7 years, the identity of Chinese Americans has always been an obstacle, and he cannot reach the top level. The salary is okay, but there is no big power. Looking at Lu Xiaoli with some surprise, Zhou Wenqiang secretly sighed that her sister is really powerful. How did she get on this ship? Or an international giant ship? How do you know Eric Cooper? He's an upstart in Hollywood, and it's rumored that his father, Charlie Cooper, is MGM's helmsman, but it's actually him who really holds the power of MGM production. As soon as Louis Fei told Huaxia about it, Zhou Wenqiang suddenly knew it. Broadway isn't Hollywood. It's not as chaotic as Hollywood, but it's certainly not clean. My sister has no background in the United States. Why do people look at Feifei differently? Just by one face? Are there few beautiful women around him? There must be a price to pay. One can imagine what the cost will be. Feifei, in 2 days we will go to Los Angeles to see what Hollywood is really like. Lu Yifei hummed obediently. After hesitating for a moment, Zhou Wenqiang opened her mouth and said, Sister, if it's convenient, can you help me introduce me? Lu Xiaoli hadn't spoken yet, but Lu Yifei, who didn't understand the situation, agreed first. Cousin, then you can go with us. Zhou Wenqiang looked at Lu Xiaoli. She knew that children couldn't call the shots. Wenqiang, what do you want to do? Is there something wrong? Asked Lu Xiaoli suspiciously. I don't have anything specific, but Hollywood and Broadway have always been indistinguishable from each other, and good Broadway plays are brought to the big screen, and good Hollywood movies are adapted for stage, and it might be useful to meet a big guy like Eric Cooper. Does it help your career? I don't know, but whether it is or not, it's not a bad thing. Lu Xiaoli nodded. Then let's go together then, but Eric may not have time to see us. In short, he is a busy man.
Los
Angeles. The car went all the way to Godot's apartment, and it was time to accompany this little girl today. Eric sighed more and more that he was such a busy man. If only there were more women in the future. Let's not talk about whether the body can eat or not. Even the time can't be staggered. One day, if you surpass Lord Wei, You can only divide his 5 horses. There is a solution, and the big sleep is together. So you guys go together and I run around in the province, but the difficulty of achieving it is a bit high and the height is outrageous. That is, the Olsen sisters are in a special situation, and if he dares to make this request to others, he is guaranteed to be beaten by fans. I didn't want to see Lu Xiaoli because I was too lazy to cause trouble, but there were some similar reasons. If I really met, there was a high probability that I wouldn't be able to escape a catastrophe. Boss, the house you want me to look for already has a goal. I have picked 3 more suitable buildings. Do you need to take a look? There's no need, just look at the choice. This is my personal card. Eric said indifferently, anyway, the house is not for him to live in. What is there to see? But after thinking about it, he felt troublesome. So he simply said, don't pick, buy all 3. Chen Xing took the card, and Peter was secretly surprised. It seems that he, the boss, is playing a lot behind his back. 1 is not enough for Jinwu Zongjiao, so I want 3, and I am afraid that it will not be 10 or 8 in the future. Arriving at their destination and sending the 2 away, Eric knocked on the door. Naturally, it was Godot's kiss that responded to him, and the filming led to a week of not being seen, and Godot, who had just completed the evolution from a girl to a woman, had long missed Eric. The 2 completely ignored Judy and Leffely, who were watching TV in the living room, and began to kiss as if no one was around. Leffely frowned. Please, pay attention to the influence, okay? Godot put his arms around Eric's neck and whispered, hold me, go to my room. Girl invited and couldn't refuse. I don't know if it was because of the disgusting drink given by Sergei, he felt that his energy had recovered a lot. He picked up Godot and walked to the bedroom. Wait, Eric, The Walking Dead is in its 6th episode. Why isn't LaFolly showing up yet? Asked Judy. It's not a film I cut. It's supposed to be the next episode. Darabont seems to have said it.
Bang!
The door closed, and after a fierce fight, the 2 lay down and fell asleep together. When Eric opened his eyes, a brand new set of clothes was placed next to him, and Godot had bought several sets for him to spare what he had said last time. There is a trace of warmth in my heart, and the size fits very well after wearing it, and she is really a woman with heart. Peter was already driving downstairs and waiting. Boss, are you going to the set? Don't go. Go back to the company. Recently, I have been hollowed out by this group of girls and are getting thinner and thinner. This decadent momentum must be stopped, and good men must have careers. On the way, I called Andrea and told her to take over the crew first, and she couldn't go for the time being. At present, the Olsen sisters have entered the state, and their acting skills are estimated to be crotch-pulling when making other types of movies, but at least this one is absolutely superb. And half of the emotional scenes that are more about acting skills have been completed, and it is no problem for Andrea to dominate the daily scenes, and her carefulness and emotional capture ability are enough to control. For the rest of the outbreak scenes, you can wait until you have time to go into battle in person. There are 2 more important jobs today. Meeting with the Silicon Valley Gang and Human Eradication Project is released today. In the MGM building, in the conference room, there is a group of unusual people, some of whom wear suits and ties, but most of them are casual clothes, which are somewhat out of step with the film industry. Many employees wondered what this group of people was here for, and then it was revealed that it was a technician from Silicon Valley. I heard that I was engaged in technical research, so it was not strange that I wore anything. Pushing open the door, Eric walked in and shook hands with the 3 leading men with a smile on his face. Heisenberg, Howard, Robert, my friends, welcome. These 3 men are Eric's team, with Fitz Heitenberg in charge of Facebook development. Howard Hughes, yes, the same name as the famous aviator, was in charge of YouTube development. Robert Mirren was in charge of the development of MGM's streaming platform, which Eric tentatively named Lionheart. Each of the 3 of them leads a team of more than 30 people, the vast majority of whom are technical developers. This number is definitely extremely wealthy for the grass creation team. For example, it is equivalent to equipping Li Yunlong with supernumerary American equipment, not to mention Ping'an County. Tokyo can rush to a rush. In addition to ensuring sufficient manpower, the salary package and office conditions are also very good. On average, Eric pays them 30% more than the market rate, plus bonuses. In Silicon Valley, it rented 3 floors of spacious office space, with 3 teams occupying 1 floor each, all equipped with the most advanced hardware on the market. In order to do a good job, he directly threw down $10 million at the beginning, and in the past few months, almost $3 million have been burned. And Eric has only one requirement, that is, to be fast, to get what he wants out as quickly as possible and put it into the market quickly. He didn't quite know when Netflix and YouTube were in the market, but Facebook knew that it was early 2004. Because David Fincher once directed a movie called The Social Network, which was nominated for 8 Oscars. The movie is based on Zuckerberg and Facebook. The movie Eric has seen it many times, and the plot must be fictional, including those bloody emotional scenes. But the commercial part can be used as a reference. Zuckerberg was just messing around in the Harvard dormitory at the beginning, a small project between a few young people, and the first round of angel investment was only $500,000. As you can imagine, in the early days of Facebook's startup, its strength was very weak. So what Eric has to do is to use time and capital to crush Zuckerberg directly to death so that his ambition will be stillborn. In addition to Facebook, there is also MySpace, which is known as the originator of the social network, which is also not yet live. Eric isn't worried about it. You couldn't even be a rising star back then, let alone today. If you dare to come out, you'll be crushed. Sitting across from the conference table, Eric motioned to close the door. After the unrelated personnel left, the projector turned on and the curtain was slowly lowered. Looking at the 3 generals he had recruited in front of him, Eric asked, "Which of you comes first? Let me see if my money is worth it." Fitz-Heitenberg swept the 2 next to him and plugged the plug into the device he had brought. "Boss, I'll come first. Facebook's development difficulty is relatively low, and now the degree of completion is higher." As he spoke, he clicked on an icon on the projection, and an interface immediately popped up in the screen. This interface gives Eric the feeling of a rudimentary version of his personal homepage on the big websites of later generations. An avatar plus a few lines of introduction, and some pictures below, somewhat similar to the prototype of the Circle of Friends. "Boss, this is the result of our recent work, and now let me introduce it to you. Through your idea, my team and I realized that this is actually a social network built on a system of acquaintances, and the root of it is the architecture of LAMP. According to Ling's description, our team has completed the construction of the required internal algorithms and operating systems during this time, and first made an internal LAN, and I will demonstrate it to you." Knowing that Eric wasn't a professional, Heisenberg didn't nag too much about the technology and came to the login page with a mouse click. "Welcome to Facebook" immediately pops up in the center of the screen. The upper left corner is a person's avatar phantom, and below the avatar is 2 blank lines for entering the account number and password. "Fitz, what does this avatar mean? Your logo for Facebook?" Heisenberg shook his head with open eyes. "No, it's Heigel, the illustrator on our team, who thinks the interface is too monotonous, so she wants to add some embellishments." "I see. What type of registration does this password support now?" "At the moment, only email is supported, and all mailboxes in the United States are fine, whether you use Google, Yahoo, or whatever." "Well, is it okay to have a cell phone number?" "What? Can I register a mobile phone number?" Heisenberg was stunned for a moment, and, to be precise, everyone looked at Eric in a daze. "Sorry, boss. Do you mean to sign up for a Facebook account with a mobile phone number?" Heisenberg asked confirmed. Eric nodded. "Yes, from a technical point of view, Is it possible to use a mobile phone number instead of an email address? The reason why this question is raised is naturally based on the soul of a Chinese person living in the future generations. Whoever downloads a new software will not be able to get it with a mobile phone number and a text message. The mailbox is too troublesome, and Eric remembers that he will use the mailbox to register on domestic websites in the morning, such as Taobao and Alipay. But I don't know when it started. It seems that the mailbox has been gradually eliminated, and the mobile phone number has become a more convenient new way. Heisenberg hesitated for a moment. Boss, I don't know this question, and I can't answer you, but registering an account with a mobile phone number doesn't sound reasonable. Why? Isn't it more convenient to send a text message from your phone to sign up? Asked Eric. Well, first of all, a lot of people don't have mobile phones. Not only the elderly and children, but even many middle-aged people, and a lot of people use old-fashioned mobile phones that can only make calls and send texts. As far as I know, in big cities like New York or San Francisco, although the penetration rate of new mobile phones is relatively high, if you put it in the third and fourth tiers, or in less economically developed states, such as Missouri, a considerable number of people do not use or cannot afford mobile phones. The mode of mobile phone number registration sounds very novel and seems very convenient, but the premise is that you still have to open the web page and click on the registration option, and the background will send you a text message. Since you have to land on the web page, why don't you use a more direct mailbox? The transmission rate of SMS is slow, but not as fast as the mailbox. Heisenberg briefly explained his opinion, and Eric probably understood where the pain points were. After all, it is 2003, and there are still several years before the rise of smartphones. Without the support of smartphones, even if many software releases mobile phone versions, there is not much left of the emasculated function. If you want to have a complete user experience, PC is the only option. And even if the smart machine is developed in advance, in fact, the mobile internet still cannot be built. Because the current signal is still used in 2G, it is often stuck for half a day when you swipe a web page picture, and the traffic fee is also a big problem, and civilians can't afford it. This problem can only be solved when there is a major breakthrough in global information technology, which is the era of mobile internet. This industry undoubtedly belongs to the blue ocean, but unfortunately it has been occupied by Qualcomm for most of the road, and it is almost impossible for outsiders to squeeze in. Looking at the future, only Huawei will break the technology monopoly in the future, but that is based on decades of technology accumulation. For MGM, it was simply impossible to get involved in this field. Unless the behemoth of Qualcomm suddenly falls, the whale falls and everything is alive. Fitz, you go on. Heisenberg entered his account password, clicked to enter, and the screen immediately jumped to his personal homepage. He operated the mouse and swiped over the toolbar at the top. Boss, this belongs to the commonly used toolbar, which can be understood as the kind of toolplate of Word. First of all, this question mark is a question answer, which mainly helps solve the security and common problems of the account, as well as settings, such as changing passwords. This exclamation mark represents a message reminder, such as someone sending you a private message or system information, and also someone has posted a dynamic comment on you. Then there's the all-important white space, where you can add new friends. As he spoke, Heisenberg clicked on the blank space, entered an email address, clicked enter, and immediately popped up a new interface, which belongs to another person's interface, which is a bit similar to QQ's adding friends. That's great, but I'd like to know what information can be retrieved from your email address with the ability to add friends. There are also Facebook accounts and nicknames, and if you want to be precise, these are the only 3 things that can be done at present. For example, if I type in the word big eyes and then enter the age range of 18 to 30 years, can I search for strangers who meet this condition? Eric's reference is obviously the search function of the penguins of later generations, and the functions such as the drifting bottle are also very good. Although these two functions have been criticized for various problems, the drifting bottle has also been permanently removed from the shelves because of yellowing. But don't forget that this is the United States, and in China it's a problem, so don't worry about it here. Even if it will cause some social problems and lawsuits, it is nothing compared to the traffic and users that can be attracted. Fitzsatzenberg, on the other hand, was stunned again, thinking about the question in his head, and then looked at his little boss with some surprise. The function proposed by the other party, after a little thought, you can understand what mystery is hidden, and such a retrieval function will undoubtedly attract a large number of lonely men and women. Sorry, now you can only retrieve emails, accounts, and nicknames. Boss, you said that this feature needs to be rewritten with a new algorithm, but just thinking about it feels interesting. We will improve it as soon as possible. Okay, you go ahead. Over the next hour or so, Heisenberg gave a detailed introduction to Facebook's features. At present, it can only be regarded as a prototype, and the main function is still focused on dynamic sharing and comments, which is probably equivalent to WeChat's circle of friends. It also offers a rudimentary chat function, which is, to be precise, sending private messages. But although it is simple, it is already the only part of Scorpion. In 2003, not to mention the circle of friends, even WeChat did not appear. Not to mention WeChat, even QQ Space has not even come up with a single idea. However, it is limited to the basic functions of the circle of friends, such as sharing, liking, blocking, viewing visits, and other advanced functions, which have not yet been implemented. These features, which may seem ordinary 20 years later, can cause a huge sensation if you take out any one of them today. Eric will slowly add to it and eventually build the software into a super social network that combines the advantages of Facebook, WeChat, Penguin, and other major programs. Fitz, I'm already very satisfied with the finished product in a short time. You guys did a good job. Is Facebook ready to go on the market now? Heisenberg nodded. We have been testing our internal LAN for a month, and in terms of functionality, I can ensure that it meets the standards, there will be no bugs, and it can ensure a smooth user experience. The issue to be considered when putting it on the market is how to promote it, and the data storage of the server is also a very important aspect. The former is related to whether our efforts can bear fruit, and the latter is to escort the ripening of the fruit. This is a problem that not only Facebook will face, but also Lionheart and YouTube will face when they go to market. Howard Hughes and Robert Miron nodded in agreement at the same time. Eric smiled. Of course, he had thought about this question many times, and it was safest to follow Zuckerberg's old path after thinking about it. That is, it is first promoted on college campuses, and then through college students to influence their families, and then radiate to the whole society. Zuckerberg has taken over all the colleges and universities in the country in just a few months, and he will only outpace him. I have already thought of countermeasures to the problem of promotion and decided to use a combination of offline and online. Online is the same old way, by advertising, by a lot of advertising, and increase exposure. But online is a supplement. Offline is our focus. And the primary target is universities, because college students have flexible access to the internet. Many of them have their own laptops, and their willingness to socialize is also the most active. 4,000 universities in the United States. 2 months. 2 months I'm going to get Facebook to take them. And then taking these college students as a base and bringing their parents and siblings on board, high school and young people under the age of 30 is our second phase goal. The last step is for those over 30 years old, who are less receptive to new things, but when their families are involved, no one is exempt from the game. Seeing that the boss had clearly planned a mature promotion strategy, Heisenberg immediately put his idea back in his stomach. He opened his mouth and asked, "Boss, what is the model of campus promotion? Do you cooperate directly with the school?" Eric nodded. This is one of them. But I guess most schools should not accept it, and the school has its own academic dignity. The approach I'm thinking about is to hire people to go through the hard marketing model, spend money to hire a group of college students to be the first users, and then those college students will promote Facebook in their respective schools. But there must be a premise for hiring, that is, the man must be handsome, and the woman must be beautiful and sexy. Think about it, you only need to create an account. You can become friends with the handsome guy and girl in the school. You can know his dynamics at any time, and even in the future, it is not excluded to develop a boyfriend and girlfriend or underground lover, which will be completely tempting. Yes. Before Eric could finish speaking, a little fat man in a plaid shirt and glasses behind Heisenberg screamed excitedly. Everyone's eyes instantly fell on him, and the little fat man immediately withered again, returning to the submissive appearance just now. "What's your name?" said Eric, gesturing at the other side. "Danny McHale, boss." "Okay, Danny, let me ask you a question. If there was such an opportunity in front of you, would you join Facebook?" "Of course, why not? First of all, you can see your goddess anytime and anywhere, and then you can get an interesting app, and I can't wait to create an account." "Well, good. That's the answer I want, and be confident, Danny. When we succeed, those former goddesses will chase you in turn." Laughter erupted in the room. To put it bluntly, this strategy still takes the next three paths. But the obscene path is often the most effective, and everyone has to admit it. After talking about the promotion problem, the next step is data storage. Heisenberg continued, "Boss, for Facebook, the most important data at the moment is images, and an image may only be a few tens of kilobytes. But when tens of millions of people upload, access, and comment at the same time, the processing volume reaches a terrifying level, and we have to prepare for this in advance and build our own server group." Eric is a layman, but he also understands how terrible a server crash can be. For example, he used to be a poisoned milk powder player, and when it came to the anniversary, it was a problem to hang up online, and he couldn't log in at all. The player is extremely disgusting, which is why the poison milk powder is also known as the Drop City. Moreover, according to Eric's superficial understanding, internet companies that have developed to a certain scale have built their own data storage centers. Many of them not only build one, but several backups, and the fear is that the accidental data is cleared. Once it happens, it will be an absolutely devastating blow, and the software can be taken out of the market directly. Eric nodded. "What you said makes sense, but it's still conservative. Tens of millions of people are nothing. Our goal is to visit hundreds of millions of people at the same time. Tell me, what's the best server on the market right now?" "It's currently a Blade server, which was launched in 2001, but it's more expensive." "Money is not a problem. The $10 million is used up. I will continue to invest and give me the best." Heisenberg smiled. As developer, he knows very well that Facebook will not be profitable in the short term. Not being able to make a profit means burning money, and a boss who is not bad at money and is willing to invest money is undoubtedly everyone's favorite. After saying Facebook, Eric looked at Robert Mirren and Howard Hughes. "How's the development of Lionheart and YouTube going?" Robert Mirren plugged into his computer, then clicked on a lion's head icon, and MGM's classic opening animation appeared, and 2 seconds later jumped to a video website page. Compared with Facebook's simplicity and cleanliness, Lionheart, as a streaming platform, has a lot of bells and whistles. At the top is the classification, which includes action, suspense, romance, comedy, etc. The interface is pulled down, and the posters of the movies are lined up, such as Chainsaw, Legally Blonde, Hearts War, Annie Hall, Hannibal series, and other movies. These are MGM-owned films, classics or not too old, and most importantly, they are not involved in any copyright disputes. For example, some joint venture movies, such as 007, which was released last year, died on a later date because it involves investment from Universal. It must not be directly used. Naturally, other people's works can't be even more so, This is not Africa. Blatant copyright infringement. Beware of being sued to bankruptcy. Moving on, there are some less well-known or older movies. Robert, how many movies are there now? Asked Eric. There are 1,955 movies and about 8,000 episodes, which is about half of MGM's film library. It's going to take a while to upload it all to Lionheart. And in this process, the biggest feeling for me is the impact of internet speed. We have to compress the video, sacrificing image quality to ensure speed, and the result is that the video definition is greatly reduced. It is better to watch DVD on TV. How can I improve the speed? Can I have more servers? Can I upload these videos to the network in their entirety? Robert shook his head. This can only alleviate it, but it can improve the root cause, because the broadband limitation is there, and if the video is too large, the user will take longer to load when watching online. We can only choose between loading time and video clarity, which is a limitation of the times and cannot be solved until broadband technology breakthroughs. Click on one and I'll take a look. Robert opens Legally Blonde, and the screen jumps to a cartoon lion cub jumping around the screen. He clicked on the lion cub a few times, and the lion immediately made a few movements, which looked quite interesting. Boss, this is to prevent users from waiting for the video to buffer and get bored, and the fun little interaction I joined in may not be of much use, but at least it can pass the time. Well, also an interesting idea. It took about a dozen seconds for the buffering of the movie to end and officially start playing. Eric frowned slightly. Although the clarity has indeed decreased, it is acceptable. Pull it back and try it. Mouse pulled the progress bar directly to the middle, and the little lion jumped out again, this time buffering for about half a minute before the video resumed. Compared to Facebook, which can be found by swiping it, this speed is indeed a bit slow. Robert, if you don't jump in the middle, how many times will there be an average buffer lag in a movie? Robert flipped through his notebook. On average, there is only one time, but this data is LAN, and there are too few survey templates, and if it is expanded to millions of people watching at the same time, the frequency of stuttering will definitely increase. Is there really no way to fix it? Said Eric, a little upset. No, the problem of network speed can't be solved. This problem can't be solved. Moreover, the United States is already the fastest country in the world. If even we can't handle it, other countries have no choice. They will only be slower, more stuttering, and less clear. Internet speed, internet speed. Eric's fingers tapped lightly on the tabletop. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Robert, the speed of the civilian network is not good, but if it is a military network, is it okay? According to our simple idea, the efficiency of the military network will definitely be higher. As soon as these words came out, Robert Mirren suddenly stared at Eric with wide eyes. He really couldn't imagine why he, the boss, would always find so many flashy spots, and such whimsical ideas would always pop up in his head. He wiped the dust from his glasses and stammered. Theoretically speaking, this is true. The network used by the military is different from that of civilian use, and the transmission cable alone is not at the same level at all, and the speed difference is several times, or even more than 10 times. Because the military network is facing a war, for example, a reconnaissance plane flies around the position, and the picture data transmitted back is immeasurable, and not only speed is required, but also quality is necessary. If we can use the military network for commercial use, all the problems can be solved, and the only thing we face is the capacity of the server, which may require a room, an office building, or even an entire building as a data storage center. But boss, I've never heard that the military network can be converted to civilian use, whether there will be security issues involved, and the Ministry of Defense will not allow it. Eric took a sip of water. You don't have to worry about it. This is the problem I need to solve. There is no precedent for this, because no one has come forward with it, and there is always a need for a pioneer in any field. Okay, you go on. Robert snorted. Boss, In addition to the limitation of network speed, another difficulty lies in the algorithm. According to your request, we have been simulating the development of Netflix's user preference recommendation algorithm, but the progress is not enough. As far as I know, Netflix has spent more than a year from research to launching this kind of feature, and it continues to be improved, and we need more time. The algorithm that Eric asked to develop is actually equivalent to the big data recommendation of later generations, remembering the user's preferences and continuously pushing similar content to improve user stickiness. Netflix is still in the videotape rental business, but it developed a similar feature a few years ago. As long as you log in to their official website and click to buy and consume, as the number of times increases, when you log in the future, the website will recommend the same type of video to you. Needless to say, this feature is important, especially for streaming media platforms and YouTube, and even short videos after the arrival of the mobile internet era, which are the core technologies. With our current R&D team, how long will it take to develop this kind of algorithm? Faced with this question, Robert did not give a definite answer, but hesitated to speak. Robert, what's wrong with you? Have you suddenly become unconfident? After thinking for a while, Robert hesitated to give a vague answer. Next year, I think it's probably the second half of next year. Please forgive me. I can't really be sure about the specific month. Boss, your requirements are more accurate and refined than Netflix's recommendation algorithm, which requires an order of magnitude increase in the logic behind it. In fact, in our technology circle, many people think that artificial intelligence will definitely be popular in the future, and maybe one day self-awareness will be born. It will be able to learn, recognize, and even evolve autonomously, just like how the robot in 2001, A Space Odyssey. And the kind of algorithm that you're asking to develop can probably be understood as the prototype of this type of artificial intelligence, and it's very difficult to create such a thing. I'm sorry, my statement may be confusing, but it's just hard. Can you understand? Robert Miron is the kind of more traditional tech nerd in the public perception, who only knows how to develop in his own room and has little interest in socializing, and even begins to fear socializing over time. Seeing his incoherent appearance, Eric opened his mouth to comfort. Relax, Robert. I'm not putting pressure on you. Relax, okay? Robert Miron took a deep breath and stabilized. Boss, in short, when the website can independently recommend suitable products to users, then it is equivalent to a salesperson with independent awareness. If you compare Netflix's algorithm to a newbie, it needs the same customer to buy something 10 times to figure out what the other person likes. And I want to make this number 9 times, which seems to be only one reduction, but the amount of computation required behind it is increasing geometrically. Eric rubbed the Leon acupoint, which he didn't understand, and simply asked, then what about Howard's team? Howard Hughes squeezed Robert Miron's wrist and motioned for him to stop. How can you understand that people provide so much money and want results? Boss, the infrastructure of the algorithm can be common, but there are differences in details, and YouTube is more complex. So I've been working with Robert's team for a long time, but even in joint development, progress is still slow. If you want to see the algorithm come out by the end of the year, the only way to do that is to increase the headcount, and I suggest hiring another batch of techies. Eric nodded secretly, and Howard's speech became much clearer, and he didn't even say the time. He took out the time limit for the end of the year. Putting yourself in a tight spell is what a good employee. As a boss, you can't be stingy yourself. How many people do you want? At least 150. Eric didn't hesitate at all. Okay, then I'll give you 150 and I'll arrange someone to recruit as soon as possible, and the two of you can also participate, or those who are interested can directly mention it. If it's someone from another company, dig it up for me. Before Christmas 2003, I'm going to see what you guys do, you know? Howard and Robert looked at each other and patted their chests to complete the task. Boss, what about the launch of Lionheart and YouTube? After the basic functions are perfected, we will go online normally and other functions will be improved in the future. And I will mention one more point. I require the 3 platform accounts to be interoperable, and users only need to register once to log in to the 3 platforms. Is it difficult to achieve this function? Heisenberg smiled. No, this is very simple, as long as the architecture is similar, and then adjust the database storage to the same format. It is easy to achieve. It's that simple, said Eric, incredulous. Yes, it's simple. Then why can't Google's products communicate with each other now? I thought it was a technical reason. Howard shook his head. It has nothing to do with technology. It should be the reason for the distribution of benefits. Many of Google's software belong to different subsidiaries. Some of these subsidiaries are wholly owned by Google, and some are only partially owned. Once the accounts are exchanged, it will be very convenient for users, and what will be driven by the flow of traffic, like breaking up the bifurcation of 2 rivers. Once the flow increases, it drives the profit to rise, and after the profit rises, it faces the problem of distribution. Google's wholly owned company is managed by different teams, different factions, different hills, and there's a lot of competition between them. What's more, those holding companies have to face the requirements of their partners, and just negotiating is enough torture. Knowing the reason, Eric smiled. In this way, we are equivalent to creating a precedent in the industry. Yes, boss, under your leadership, the absence of internal strife will be a big advantage for us, so Heisenberg and I are willing to follow you. We always believe that under your leadership, the company will become a new generation of internet giants, comparable to the supergiants of Google and Microsoft. Eric knocked lightly on the table. Then it's decided. Today is May 24th. After going back, prepare seriously, and Facebook will be officially launched on the market on June 1st. At that time, we can proudly announce one thing: the world's first social network was born. And you, my friends, you are all heroes. On the way back to Silicon Valley, 3 teams of people sat on the bus and chatted and talked. Most of them are not very good at interpersonal communication, but they get along very well with each other, and one of the girls in Howard's team has become a couple with a young man in Heisenberg's team. Eric Cooper doesn't know much about technology, but he's really good, and the ideas he comes up with always hit our points of interest. Charlie, it's called creativity, so people can be bosses at a young age, and we can only write code. An old coder who is almost 30 years old sighed. I heard that he is still a director. Directors are a group of people with a lot of imagination. No wonder he can come up with Lionheart, Facebook, and YouTube, and the 3 are each other's horns, can provide each other with resources. Eric Cooper is a genius. Ha ha ha, compared to genius, I think his attributes as vice president of MGM are more important, and without economic support, no matter how good the idea is, it can't be realized. Boss, since Eric is a Hollywood bigwig, can you ask him for a suggestion to invite a few celebrities to come to the company at the end of the year? A young man with a baseball cap looked at Howard Hughes and asked. Howard smiled. As long as I can get the algorithm out before Christmas, I'll go to Eric and ask for it. How about it? Agreed. I hope it's Julia Roberts. I love her, Notting Hill, to death. Julia Roberts has a big mouth. It's better than Cameron Diaz, and her Breaking Bad is so sexy. Make no mistake, can you say a little bit about the young actresses? I think Jessica Alba is great. Discrimination. How are they all actresses? You otaku, I love Orlando Bloom. Beverly Hills, Cooper's house. Eric swallowed the health wine sent by Lao Han in one gulp, followed by another glass of light blue cloudy liquid. Vomit. As a result, the 2 smells were intertwined, almost making him vomit. Holding back his thoughts, it took him a few minutes before he leaned back against the cabinet to catch his breath. Shit. It's so bad. It's a piece of shit. Is there a chemical reaction? Muttering to himself, Eric took a sip of water and rinsed his mouth. The cloudy liquid is naturally a secret functional drink developed by Sergito's experts, and after drinking a glass yesterday, he felt good, and Eric asked for the recipe. I thought I would use it with Laohan sake and try it to see how it worked. However, looking at the health wine that was about to bottom, he picked up his mobile phone and dialed the international call, thinking that he had to find Lao Han to order it again. Old Han, how are you doing? It's good, thanks to you. Now Oriental MGM is doing well, and the leader is very satisfied. Han Sanping's hearty voice came from the other side of the phone. When the leader is satisfied, are you about to straighten out? How can it be so fast? Look at the opportunity. This kind of thing depends on the opportunity. One look at the opportunity, the other looks at the hard work. Now that the opportunity has been given to you, the next thing is to look at your efforts. Han Sanping, who was on the other side, immediately laughed. Eric, I found that you really don't look like an American, and you know a lot about the officialdom here in Huaxia. Because I love to learn, I like to learn foreign languages, I taught Mandarin by myself, and I have been interested in Chinese culture since I was a child. Hee, you get down to business. Suddenly calling me is definitely not a greeting. I will have a meeting here soon. You don't want to learn Huaxia's politeness. I still like your old beauty and straightforward style. Okay, then I'll be straightforward. Did you still have that kind of wine you gave when you left last time? Drink it so quickly. Didn't I tell you to just have a small glass at a time? Han Sanping asked with some surprise. I didn't drink it alone. My father also used it together, and the effect was good, so I'll ask you to order it again. Ha 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 ha. I'll just say that this thing is the most suitable way for the entertainment industry, especially a master like you. Don't worry, I have what I have to survive, and I'll send it to you. It's also a hassle to mail back and forth. Is there a recipe? I made it directly in the United States. Eric asked. There must be a recipe, but when brewing, you need to use wild ginseng from Changbai Mountain, Cordyceps sinensis, and other medicinal materials. You will definitely not be able to get authentic ones in the United States, in case you buy a fake, let alone whether it can have an effect. You are afraid of hurting your body. It is better for me to send it to you. As soon as Lao Han said this, Eric thought about it. There are many cases of rich people buying fakes, not to mention the medicinal wine taken internally, so he doesn't dare to mess around. Then I'll listen to you, but don't send bottles by bottle, come more. Okay, just wait. I'll send you a few boxes, enough for you to use for 1.5 years. Then thank you. What's polite? When Huaxia has passed the special situation, you come over, and I'll arrange something new for you. Got a new project? You're here, there must be. With your words, it looks like I have to go. Then let's settle our word. Hanging up, Eric walked out of the house. In the living room, Joshua was talking on the phone, laughing while talking, and it looked like he was talking to a woman. I don't know if I've only been away for 2 days. Why this kid suddenly hooked up with a girl. Joshua, who are you talking to? Joshua made a shushing gesture and waved his hand for him to leave. Shaking his head, he came to the garage and instead of driving a Lamborghini, he changed to an ordinary Chevrolet sedan. Lamborghini is still too eye-catching. Even late at night, it can still attract attention. The car drove all the way to Nico's villa. It was already late at night, and she had no news recently, and the paparazzi would come over to squat during the day, and they had already withdrawn late at night. Work is not a matter of life. Squatting for 10 days and half a month may not be able to take a useful photo. What is the picture? A moment later, a shadow of a Chevrolet was stunned for a moment. Eric lowered the window, and Nico got into the car with a smile. Meeting is a set of French wet kisses, and it is strange to say that a man is an animal. I just did it less than a day ago, but when I was done, I entered the sage time, and I thought to myself, so be it. As a result, after a day, the energy has recovered a little, and the silver desire climbs into the brain again, especially when you are dealing with a different excellent woman. My little husband, you have become smarter, and you even know how to change. Hee hee, I'm with you all day, and if you're not smart, you have to be smart. Nico pecked Eric in the face again. Didn't I suck you? Excellent people learn from each other, which is called teaching and learning. Then are you still absorbing from each other? That's why your IQ has increased so quickly? What's the matter? I only have you in my heart. Don't listen to the rumors of gossip and tabloids. Not wanting to talk about this topic, Eric kicked the accelerator and started straight to the car, and Nico groaned as he fell backwards because of inertia. I'm going to kill you. What are you doing so violently? Haven't I been so fierce all the time? Ha ha ha, I have a deep understanding of this, little husband. You can make me have no strength to get out of bed every time. When you're done watching the movie, I'll take you somewhere, don't talk about getting up, and you'll be happily lying in bed. Where is it? You'll know when you go. Let's watch the movie first. 10 minutes later, Chevrolet came to a movie theater, and what they were going to see was, of course, the midnight premiere of The Human Eradication Project. As a small-budget film, Human Removal Project continues the consistent style of AK films, with little investment and no big names. On the side of AK Films, except for the company's logo and director Anthony Ferrante, who has accumulated some fame for Sharknado, all other elements are unfamiliar to the audience. There was no large-scale publicity beforehand, and the news was only announced on the official website of AK Films. And there are not many people who pay attention to AK film and television, and they are basically bad movie lovers, so the premiere of Human Removal Plan is bound to be deserted, and this time period is the most suitable for a big star like Nico, who is not easy to show up. Walking into the cinema, there are different movie posters in the corridor. The most eye-catching are The Matrix 2 and Finding Nemo. Among them, the second week of the release of The Matrix 2 is coming to an end, and the most ferocious time period at the box office has passed. Finding Nemo is still a week away from being released, and it is now in the warm-up stage, so Eric originally finalized the release at this point. AK Film and Television has a week to ferment word of mouth, as long as word of mouth rises, even in the face of Finding Nemo. One is a limited R rating, and the other is AG rating for all ages, and everyone's audience is not a group of people at all, and there is almost no conflict. As for why not avoid Finding Nemo and move the release time later? Because there are a series of blockbusters such as Jim Carrey's Imposter and Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean in the summer file. Not only is the audience conflicting, but who have you beaten? Captain Jack can kick you in the sea with one kick. At the end of the summer season, Escape from Desperate Town will be released again, and Hold Your Breath will be scheduled at the end of September. In October, MGM will release Legally Blonde 2, and in November, it will be the big production Transformers. The Christmas file continues to arrange Sharknado 2, and if nothing else, every year's Sharknado will be set for Christmas, and the audience's habits and expectations must be cultivated until the box office potential of the movie is completely exhausted. At the same time, Adele's Life will be released in December, and this time period was chosen to impact the Golden Globes in January and the Oscars at the end of February. Then in January, Saw 2 will be arranged, and if nothing else, it will be this time period in the future. Therefore, arranging the Human Eradication Plan on May 25th is already the most appropriate time after many considerations. Back last year, when Cooper and his son first took over MGM, Eric cut most of the projects with a big swing of his hand. As a result, in the first half of this year, MGM didn't have any works at all, and if it weren't for Chainsaw barely holding on, it would have been laughed out of its big teeth long ago. However, the snake molted, and now that the old skin had been shed, the snake jumped up and naturally turned into a dragon, and the male lion would roar on the grassland again. This is still the first year, and when more projects open next year, Eric will be given a full-year schedule. It will also become more and more insufficient, and self-competition and self-crushing are not uncommon in large companies. Let Nico wait in the distance, and Eric comes to the front desk alone. Both of them wore masks and hats, and even Nico did a simple cross-dress. 2 tickets for the human eradication plan. Conductor looked at him strangely. Brother, do you need to wrap so tightly to watch a movie? Human removal project. I watched the official website of AK Film and Television, so I feel like I am dressed like this. Conductor shook his head speechlessly and handed over 2 tickets. It's really a brainless monster, and this kind of bad movie can also attract this kind of sand sculpture. I muttered in my heart, but I suddenly found that the woman who was dressed in the same shape was really good, and I was suddenly a little jealous in my heart. Why can this stupid fork find a girlfriend with Victoria's Secret body, but I have to stand here in the middle of the night to sell tickets? It's so unfair. If only there really was a plan to eliminate the human race, Lao Tzu was going to swoop out all those rich people and kill that stupid boss Malfoy first. I even deducted an hour's pay for being a minute late. Look at this human eradication plan. Maybe it's not bad. With 10 minutes to go, Eric and Nico found a corner to sit and wait. Nico picked up a piece of popcorn and fed it to Eric. My little husband, what does it matter if you don't wear a mask or not? Few people know each other anyway. What if, and maybe someone will covet my handsome looks. Narcissist. Eric laughed and took off his mask and ate popcorn. Eric. As soon as I took it off, someone next to me recognized it. He hurriedly pulled the mask on, turned his head and saw that it was Warren, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay, my friend. He patted Nico's hand and said comfortingly, do you need me to avoid it? No, I don't. You're not afraid of what people tell you about your little lover? Don't worry, he doesn't dare. It turns out that you really have a little lover, and you say that I am the only one in your heart. At this time, another woman walked up to Warren, and it seemed that the two were dating. Eric rubbed his eyes, looked at them with some surprise after careful confirmation. Pema, you too? The woman was none other than Bhima Hadi, the general manager of AK Films and Television, appointed by Eric. At the last party, Warren also said that he had a good impression of Pema Hadi, but he didn't expect the two to really get together. Hearing someone call his name, Pema Hadi glared at him. Boss. The two hurriedly walked up to Eric. Boss, why are you here? What kind of idiocy is this? What can I do in the cinema? Watching a movie, of course. Eric was speechless. Pema Hadi thought to himself, of course I know you're going to watch a movie. I just want to know what's going on with this woman next to me. She took a closer look. Even though Nico was wearing a hat and a mask, her eyes couldn't cover it, and with her hair, she was still very easy to recognize at close range. She pointed at Nico in surprise. You're Nicole. Warren hurriedly covered her mouth, and there were dozens of people around her, and it would be bad to shout out. Eric motioned for the two to sit down. Nico, say hello. Now that you are recognized, there is no need to hide it. Three shook hands with each other, which was considered to be acquaintance. Eric looked at Warren and Bhima Hadi. So, you two now. Warren patted his chest. I took the initiative. We are serious. Bhima Hadi was a little embarrassed. After all, this was an office romance, and the two of them were still senior executives of AK Films, so it would be bad if they were misunderstood by Eric. But she clearly underestimated Eric's heart and relationship with Warren. Congratulations. Eric earnestly expressed his blessings. Pema Hadi's face was happy. Thank you, boss. No thanks, but I'm going to do something for me. Keep an eye on this Warren guy and let him lose weight, at least 50 pounds. That's what I think, too. Len's little eyes roamed back and forth between Eric and Nico. Are you guys dating? Nico looked at Eric and Eric nodded. That's right. I haven't seen the movie Human Eradication Project yet. It's not our fault. I've invited you several times, but you're always busy. Eric patted the two on the shoulder. Because I believe in you, of course mainly in the abilities of Pema. Ha ha ha. Let's go, check the ticket. Nico pestled him. The two stood up and Eric looked at Warren. Aren't you together? I've seen it too many times. We're going to see something else.